The story you are about to hear is a wonderful one. If you enjoy the story, please subscribe to the channel and comment on what location you're watching this video from. Thank you for watching. Robert adjusted his designer tie one more time before stepping out of his black Mercedes in the Oakwood Park parking lot. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the playground, where the laughter of children echoed like a symphony he had forgotten how to listen to. His 7-year-old daughter, Lily, sat silently in the back seat, her golden hair catching the light like fine silk, her blue eyes fixed on something only she could see. "Come on, sweetheart," Robert said softly, opening her door. Lily slid her small hand into his, but she said nothing. She never did. For 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days, Robert counted every one of them, Lily had remained silent. Not by choice, the doctors said. The trauma of losing her mother in that car accident had locked her voice somewhere deep inside her. And no amount of therapy, specialists, or prayers had managed to find the key. Robert was a man who solved problems for a living. As the CEO of Vance Enterprises, a major corporation, he commanded boardrooms, negotiated multi-million-dollar deals, and turned failing businesses into success stories. But he couldn't fix the one thing that mattered most, his daughter's silence. They walked toward the playground, Lily's small fingers gripping his hand like a lifeline. Other children ran past them, shouting and playing games that Lily watched with longing eyes but never joined. Robert's chest tightened as he watched her sit on a bench, her legs swinging freely, her mouth sealed like a vault protecting treasures too precious to share. "Lily, would you like to try the swings today?" he asked, his voice carrying the same gentle hope as every other afternoon they came here. Lily looked at him with those impossibly blue eyes, Eleanor's eyes, and gave a nearly imperceptible shake of her head. That's when Robert saw him. A boy, maybe Lily's age, with messy blonde hair sticking up in every direction, and clothes that had seen better days. His sneakers had holes in them, and his t-shirt was 2 sizes too big, likely a hand-me-down. But his smile could light up the entire city. The boy was building something in the sandbox, his tongue sticking out in concentration as he molded the sand with his bare hands. Other children played around him, but he seemed content in his own world, creating what looked like an elaborate castle, complete with towers and moats. Lily got off the bench suddenly, her movement so quick it startled Robert. She walked toward the sandbox with a purpose he hadn't seen in her for 3 years. Robert followed at a distance, his heart hammering against his ribs. The boy looked up as Lily approached, and his face lit up like Christmas morning. "Hi. Want to help me build this castle? I'm making it for a princess, but I think I need someone who knows what princesses really like." Lily stopped just short of the sandbox, her eyes wide and focused on the boy's creation. She knelt in the sand, not caring about her expensive dress, and reached out to touch one of the towers. "Careful," the boy said quickly, but without harshness. "It's still a little wobbly." "My name is Leo Sullivan. What's yours?" Robert held his breath. This was the moment that always broke his heart. When other children expected Lily to speak, and she couldn't. The disappointment in their faces usually sent her running back to him. But something different happened today. Lily opened her mouth, and for the first time in 3 years, 2 months and 16 days, she whispered a single word that changed everything. "Lily." Robert's legs nearly gave out. Lily had spoken. His daughter, his precious silent Lily, had just said her name to a complete stranger. The word hung in the air like an answered prayer. And Robert felt tears streaming down his face before he could stop them. Leo's face lit up like the fireworks Lily used to love before the world went quiet. "Lily, that's such a pretty name," he exclaimed, clapping his sandy hands together with pure joy. "Just like Princess Lily from my favorite book at the library. She's the one who could talk to animals and make flowers bloom just by smiling at them. Do you want to help me make the drawbridge? Yeah, I can't figure out how to make it open and close right." Robert watched in amazement as Lily nodded eagerly, something he hadn't seen since before Eleanor's death. She moved closer to Leo in the sandbox, her pristine white dress now decorated with golden sand, and began to carefully shape the castle entrance with delicate fingers that hadn't played in years. "My mommy used to read me stories about castles," Lily whispered, her voice barely audible but clear as a bell to Robert's desperate ears. Every word was a miracle, a gift he thought he'd never receive again. She said every castle needs a secret garden where the princess can go when she feels sad. Somewhere pretty and quiet where she can think happy thoughts. Leo's eyes widened with excitement, and he started digging enthusiastically in the sand. A secret garden? That's the most brilliant idea ever. We could put it right here behind the main tower, with little flowers made of colored sand. He paused in his digging, looking at Lily with non-judgmental curiosity. Your mommy sounds really smart and nice. Is she picking you up later, or are you going home with your dad? Robert's breath caught in his throat. This was always the hardest part. The moment when other kids asked about mommy, and Lily's face would close up like slamming shutters. He'd seen it happen dozens of times, had watched her retreat back into silence when the questions became too hard. But today felt different. Today Lily's hands stilled in the sand, but she didn't run, didn't shut down. Instead, she looked directly at Leo with those impossibly blue eyes, Eleanor's eyes, and spoke with a steadiness that both broke and mended Robert's heart at the same time. Mommy is in heaven now, she said simply, her voice carrying a grace that seemed far beyond her 7 years. She watches me from the stars every night. Daddy showed me which one is hers. It's the brightest one right above our house. Leo stopped digging completely and looked at Lily with an understanding far beyond his few years. The sounds of the playground seemed to fade away around them as he processed her words with the serious consideration they deserved. My daddy's in heaven too, he said gently, his voice dropping to match Lily's reverent tone. He went there when I was 5, but I remember everything about him. He had the biggest hands in the world, and he used to build the most amazing sandcastles. Mommy says he watches me from the biggest star in the sky, the one that looks like it's twinkling. She says he sends me good dreams sometimes, especially when I'm scared or feeling lonely. Robert felt his heart both expand and break at once. These two children, both touched by loss at such a tender age, had found each other in a sandbox and were sharing their deepest pain with the innocent honesty that only children possessed. Maybe they're friends up there, Lily suggested, and for the first time in over 3 years, a genuine smile pulled at the corners of her mouth, not the polite, rehearsed smile she had learned to use for doctors and therapists, but a real spontaneous expression of hope. I bet they are, Leo agreed, his own smile matching hers. And I bet they're really happy that we're friends down here. Maybe they even helped us find each other today. As the afternoon sun began to set, casting the playground in golden hues that made everything look magical, Robert realized something profound was happening. His daughter wasn't just talking, she was healing. The locked part of her soul was opening like a flower, reaching for the sunlight. And it was all thanks to a little boy with holes in his shoes and a heart bigger than the sky. But as he watched them play, carefully constructing their castle and their friendship with equal care, Robert couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was too perfect, too fragile. What would happen when this afternoon ended? And tomorrow or next week? Could something this beautiful really last? Daddy, can Leo come over to our house? Lily asked as they walked back to the Mercedes, her small hand still clutching Robert's, but now with an excited energy instead of the desperate need he'd grown used to. Her voice carried a lightness he had forgotten existed. Robert looked back at the sandbox, where Leo was carefully dismantling his castle, patting the sand down for tomorrow's children with the kind of thoughtfulness that spoke volumes about his character. The boy looked up and waved enthusiastically at Lily, his gap-toothed smile infectious and pure, the kind of smile that could light up the darkest room. We'll see. Sweetheart, Robert said, though his mind was already racing with questions and concerns. Who was this boy? Where were his parents? Why was he at the park alone? And most importantly, what would happen to Lily's newfound voice if this friendship couldn't continue? Leo! Robert called out, his CEO instincts kicking in as he approached the boy. Is someone coming to pick you up? It's getting pretty late. The boy bounded over, fizzing with boundless energy, sand still clinging to his worn clothes and his hair sticking up in every direction. Oh, I walk home. It's not far, just past the old factory on Sycamore Street and around the corner from the laundromat with the blinking neon sign. My mom works at George's Diner, so I come here most days after school. Sometimes I go to the library first, but the park is my favorite because you can build things and use your imagination. Robert's blood ran cold. Sycamore Street was in one of the roughest parts of the city, a place where even the police patrolled in pairs. The thought of a 7-year-old child walking alone through those streets every afternoon was unthinkable, the kind of thing that kept parents awake at night with worry. "How long have you been walking by yourself?" Robert asked, trying to keep his voice casual, while his mind calculated all the dangers a child could face in that area. Leo shrugged with the nonchalance of someone too young to fully understand the risks he faced daily. "Since school started in March, Mom says I'm responsible enough now that I'm 7.5. Besides, Mrs. Peterson from next door watches me from her window, and Mr. Paulson at the corner store always waves and sometimes gives me a free piece of candy if I help him carry groceries for the old ladies." Lily tugged insistently on Robert's sleeve, her eyes bright with an idea. "Daddy, can we give Leo a ride home, please? It's getting dark and he shouldn't walk alone when it's dark." Robert looked into his daughter's pleading eyes, the same eyes that had been empty and lifeless for so long, and knew he couldn't refuse her first real request in years. The protective instincts he felt for Lily naturally extended to this remarkable little boy who had given her back her voice. "Of course, Leo. We'd be happy to take you home." "It would be our pleasure." The car ride was a revelation that changed everything Robert thought he knew about childhood resilience. Leo chattered non-stop about school, his favorite teacher, Miss Jenkins, who let him help with story time, his mom's famous chili that all the neighbors begged for, and his big dream of becoming an astronaut so he could visit his dad among the stars. Lily hung on his every word, occasionally adding her own soft comments, each one a miracle to Robert's ears. "You really want to go to space?" she asked. "That sounds scary." "Not scary," Leo corrected gently. "Amazing. Think about it, Lily. You could see the whole world from up there, and all the problems that seem so big down here would look tiny. Plus, I bet the view of heaven is way better from space." When they pulled up in front of a small run-down apartment building on Sycamore Street, Robert's heart sank. The paint was peeling from the walls. The front steps looked ready to crumble under the slightest weight, and several windows were patched with cardboard instead of glass. This was poverty in its rawest, most unforgiving form. "Thanks for the ride, mister." Leo trailed off, realizing he didn't know Robert's last name despite their afternoon together. "Vance," Robert replied, watching the boy's face carefully. "Robert Vance." Leo's eyes widened with recognition and genuine excitement. "Like Vance Enterprises? The big building downtown with all the shiny windows that reflect the clouds?" "My mom cleans offices there sometimes on the weekends when they need extra help." Robert nodded, surprised that the boy not only knew his company, but spoke of it with such enthusiasm. "Mom always says the people who work there must be really important, because everything is so clean and fancy," Leo continued, glowing with innocent pride. "That is so cool. Your dad must be like a superhero in a suit." As Leo disappeared into the building, waving enthusiastically until the last possible second, Robert realized something deeply unsettling. Lily had found her voice again. But at what cost? Leo lived in a world Robert barely understood, a world of struggle and uncertainty that was as foreign to him as another planet. What happened when two worlds this different collided? And more importantly, what happened to Lily if those worlds couldn't find a way to coexist? The next morning, Robert found Lily sitting by her bedroom window in the reading nook Eleanor had created years ago, fully dressed in her favorite blue dress and staring intently at the digital clock on her nightstand. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, illuminating her golden hair like a halo. "It's only 7:30, sweetheart. We don't have to leave for the park until 3, he said gently, sitting beside her on the window seat that had been Lily's favorite spot before the world went quiet. "Can we go earlier today?" Lily asked, her voice clearer and stronger than it had been yesterday, each word more confident than the last. "Leo said he might go to the library before the park today. He's going to read stories to the little kids, and I want to see what books he likes. Maybe I could help him." Robert's heart swelled with both joy and worry. Lily was speaking in full sentences, showing enthusiasm for activities beyond her quiet, carefully controlled routine, all positive signs that filled him with hope. But her entire emotional recovery seemed to hinge on a little boy she had known for less than 24 hours, and that dependency terrified him. "Lily, honey, We need to talk about Leo." Robert began carefully, choosing his words like stepping stones across a treacherous river. "He's a wonderful boy and I'm so happy you've become friends, but he's my best friend," Lily interrupted with a firmness that completely surprised Robert. "He understands about missing people and having holes in your heart that hurt sometimes. And he makes me want to talk again, Daddy. When I'm with him, the words don't feel stuck anymore." The simplicity and honesty of her statement hit Robert like a physical blow. "He makes me want to talk again." 3 years of the best therapists money could buy, countless sessions with child psychologists, specialists flown in from around the world. None of it had accomplished what one afternoon with a little boy from Sycamore Street had. That afternoon, they found Leo at the public library, exactly where he'd said he would be. And the sight that greeted them took Robert's breath away. Leo sat in the children's section, surrounded by a diverse group of younger kids who were watching him with rapt attention as he brought a story to life with animated voices and expressive gestures. And then the dragon realized he wasn't scary at all. "He was just lonely and misunderstood," Leo was saying, his voice lively and engaging, his whole body moving as he acted out the story. No one had ever asked him why he breathed fire. They just ran away screaming. So when the princess finally sat down and asked him about his feelings, he started crying tears of joy instead of breathing fire. Lily walked over without hesitation and sat cross-legged on the colorful rug with the other children, completely absorbed in Leo's storytelling. Robert watched from behind a nearby bookshelf, both awestruck and emotional. His daughter, who had barely interacted with other children since the accident, was now part of a group, laughing and clapping along with the story as if she'd never been silent at all. When story time ended and the children dispersed to find their own books, Leo spotted Lily and his face lit up like Christmas morning. "Lily, you came. Did you hear the dragon story? It's one of my favorites because it teaches us that sometimes people who seem scary are just sad on the inside. I love stories where everyone ends up happy and understood." "Me too," Lily replied with growing confidence. "Leo, do you read stories here every day? You're very good at making the characters feel real." "Miss Jenkins lets me help with story time on Wednesdays and Fridays," Leo explained with obvious pride. "She says I have a special gift for bringing characters to life and helping kids connect with books. I want to write my own book someday. Stories that help sad kids feel better and less alone." Robert felt something fundamental shift in his chest. This wasn't just a happy accident or a temporary bright spot. Leo was genuinely special. His natural empathy, his intuitive way with children, his resilience in the face of obvious hardship, these were qualities that couldn't be bought, taught, or manufactured. As they left the library together, Lily slipped her free hand into Leo's with complete trust, creating a three-person chain that felt more natural than anything Robert had experienced since Eleanor died. For the first time in over 3 years, he felt like they could truly be a family again. But then, Leo mentioned something that shattered Robert's growing sense of peace and changed everything. "Oh, by the way, Mom wanted me to thank you for the ride yesterday, Mr. Vance. She was worried when I was 15 minutes late getting home, but when I told her all about Lily and our castle and how we both miss people in heaven, she cried happy tears." Leo paused, his expression suddenly serious beyond his years. "She said it was the first time in months I talked about making a new friend instead of just missing Dad. Mum's been really worried about me lately, especially since the eviction notice came. She tries to hide it, but I know she's scared." Robert's blood turned to ice. Eviction notice. This perfect healing friendship was about to be destroyed by something as brutal and final as an eviction. Robert couldn't focus on anything for the rest of the afternoon. While Lily played quietly in her room, talking to her stuffed animals for the first time in years, creating elaborate storylines that filtered through the house like music. His mind reeled from Leo's casual mention of an eviction notice. He tried to tell himself it wasn't his responsibility. He had built Vance Enterprises from the ground up by making hard decisions, by understanding that business was business and emotions were luxuries successful people couldn't afford. Getting personally involved in the financial problems of every person who touched his life was a recipe for disaster. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw Leo's gap-toothed smile and heard Lily's laughter echoing through the house for the first time since Eleanor died. How could he weigh business principles against his daughter's miraculous recovery? By midnight, Robert found himself in his oak-paneled study, laptop open, researching everything he could about the address at 231 Sycamore Street, apartment 3B. What he discovered in the public records made his stomach churn with a mixture of sadness and anger at the unfairness of life. Anna Sullivan, 28 years old, worked 3 part-time jobs: cleaning offices for minimum wage in the early morning hours, waiting tables at George's Diner during the dinner rush, and occasionally babysitting for neighbors when her schedule allowed. Her husband, Carlos, had died in a construction accident 18 months prior, leaving behind massive medical bills from his 3-week fight for life and no insurance to cushion the blow. The eviction notice was for 3 months of back rent, a total of $900. Robert stared at the number on his screen in disbelief. He spent more than that on a single dinner at the Capitol Club. It was less than he paid for his monthly car detailing service. For the Sullivan family, it was the difference between having a home and living on the streets. Robert picked up his phone 3 times to call his assistant, Margaret, to have her issue a check and solve the problem quietly and efficiently, but each time he hesitated. What message would that send? What would happen next month when they couldn't make rent again? Was he solving a problem or creating a dependency that would ultimately make things worse? The next afternoon at the park, Leo seemed different, quieter, less buoyant, his usual boundless energy dampened by a worry too heavy for such young shoulders. When Lily asked him to help build another castle, he agreed, but his heart wasn't in it. His movements were mechanical, distracted. "Leo, is everything okay?" Lily asked with the intuitive concern that seemed to be her superpower. "You seem sad today. Did something happen?" Leo's hand stilled in the sand, and for a moment Robert saw the weight of adult worries settling onto a child's face. "Mommy cried again last night after she thought I was asleep. The man from the apartment office came by and he wasn't very nice to her. He said bad things about people who don't pay their bills, and he gave her a new paper that said we have to leave in 2 weeks if we can't pay." Leo looked at Lily with eyes that had seen too much. "I don't want to move away, Lily. I just found my best friend and I don't want to lose you too." Lily's face fell with an expression Robert hadn't seen since the day they told her mommy wasn't coming home. "You can't move. You're the only one who understands about mommies and daddies in heaven. You're the only one who makes me want to talk." Robert watched his daughter's face cycle through emotions she hadn't displayed in 3 years. Anger, fear, desperation, and a fierce protectiveness that reminded him so much of Eleanor it took his breath away. She was feeling again, deeply and completely. And it was both beautiful and terrifying. "Maybe your dad can help," Leo said suddenly, looking at Robert with hopeful eyes that carried the weight of a family's future. "He's important, right?" "Important people can fix things that regular people can't." The weight of both children's expectant gazes settled on Robert's shoulders like lead. He was important, he could fix this, but should he? And if he did, what would the consequences be for everyone involved? "I'll see what I can do," Robert heard himself say, even though his mind was screaming warnings about boundaries and complications and the dangerous territory of mixing business with personal feelings. That night, as Robert tucked Lily into the bed in the room that still smelled faintly of Eleanor's lavender perfume, she looked at him with those impossibly blue eyes and said the words that would haunt him for sleepless days to come. "Daddy, if Leo moves away, I think I might stop talking again. He's the only person who makes the words want to come out of the quiet place where they've been hiding. Without him, I don't know if I'll remember how to use my voice." Robert realized with crystal clarity that they weren't just asking him to help a struggling family. They were asking him to save his daughter's voice, her healing, her future. But was he strong enough to bridge 2 worlds that seemed destined to remain apart? And what would be the cost of trying? Robert stood outside 231 Sycamore Street at 7:30 the next morning, clutching an envelope that contained a certified check for $1,500, enough to cover the back rent and several months in advance. He had barely slept, wrestling with Eleanor's voice in his head, her gentle wisdom echoing through his memory. "You can't solve everything with money, Robert," she used to say when he tried to write checks for problems that required more than financial solutions. Sometimes the heart needs more than the wallet can provide. Sometimes people need to feel like they've earned their dignity. But what was the alternative? Let Leo and his mother get evicted? Watch Lily retreat back into silence? Sometimes money was the only tool he had, the only language he spoke fluently enough to help. The apartment building looked even more dilapidated in the harsh morning light. Graffiti covered most of the first-floor walls. The sidewalk was cracked and uneven, and the smell of garbage and despair seemed to hang in the air like a fog. Robert walked up the creaking steps to 3B, each step echoing his doubts, and knocked gently. The woman who opened the door was not what he had expected. Anna Sullivan was beautiful in a way that hardship couldn't touch. High cheekbones, intelligent dark eyes that missed nothing, and an aura of dignity that poverty couldn't diminish. She wore a waitress uniform that had seen better days, but it was impeccably clean. And she held a mug of coffee that smelled like it was mostly chicory and hope. "Mr. Vance," she said, recognizing him immediately from Leo's excited descriptions. "Leo told me all about you and Lily. He hasn't stopped talking about his new friend since yesterday. Please come in." The apartment was small but spotless, every surface wiped clean, everything organized with military precision, and despite the obvious poverty, there was love in every corner. Leo sat at a small table, doing homework, his tongue sticking out in concentration, and looked up with surprise and joy when he saw Robert. "Mr. Vance, Lily's dad is here. Want to see my room? I have a telescope Dad gave me before he went to heaven, and sometimes I look at the stars and tell him about my day." "Leo, finish your math homework," Anna said gently, her voice carrying the authority of a mother who was also her son's anchor. She turned back to Robert with curious eyes. "I'm sorry our place is so small. Can I offer you some coffee? It's not fancy, but it's strong." Robert glanced around the humble space. The carefully mended furniture, the hand-drawn pictures covering the refrigerator, the nursing textbooks stacked on every available surface. This wasn't just poverty. This was someone fighting tooth and nail to build a better life against impossible odds. "Mrs. Sullivan," Robert began, pulling out the envelope with hands that weren't entirely steady, "I want to help with your rent situation. Leo and Lily have become very close, and I understand you're facing some difficulties. Please consider this a gift." "No." Anna's voice was firm but not unkind, and her refusal hit Robert like a physical blow. "I appreciate the gesture more than you know, Mr. Vance, but I don't accept charity. Not even from someone with the kindest intentions." Robert blinked in stunned silence. In his world, everyone took money if you offered enough. Everyone had a price, a number that would solve their problems and make them grateful. This was foreign territory. "Mrs. Sullivan, please, I understand your pride, but Leo and Lily are beautiful together," Anna interrupted with gentle steel. "My son hasn't smiled like that since his father died. And from what Leo tells me, Lily is finding her voice again. But money doesn't buy friendship, Mr. Vance. It complicates it. It creates imbalances that children shouldn't have to navigate." "Then what can I do?" Robert asked, genuinely confused and feeling helpless in a way that was completely unfamiliar. "I can't just watch you get evicted when I have the power to prevent it." Anna studied him for a long moment, her intelligent eyes seeming to see right through to his soul. When she spoke, her words would change everything. "You want to help? Give me a job. A real job with benefits and a future. I'm 2 semesters away from finishing my nursing degree, but I can't afford to continue. Help me build something lasting, not just pay for a temporary fix that solves nothing." Leo looked up from his homework, his young face bright with an understanding that amazed Robert. "Mom is really smart, Mr. Vance. She's going to be the best nurse ever and help sick people feel better, just like how Lily helped me feel better about missing my dad. And I helped her find her voice again. It's like a circle of helping." Robert stared at this remarkable woman and her extraordinary son, realizing he had completely misunderstood everything about their situation. This wasn't about charity. It was about opportunity, dignity, and the chance to build something meaningful. 3 days later, Robert sat across from Anna Sullivan in his executive conference room on the 4th floor of Vance Enterprises. The contrast was stark. Anna in her best dress, which was still clearly second-hand, surrounded by Italian leather chairs and floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a view of the entire city. "I spoke with our human resources department," Robert began, sliding a folder across the rosewood table. We have an opening in our corporate wellness program. The position involves coordinating health services for our employees, working with our on-staff medical personnel, and eventually managing wellness initiatives. It's a perfect fit for someone with your background and future nursing degree. Anna opened the folder, her eyes widening as she read the salary figure. Mr. Vance, this is more than I make in 6 months at my 3 jobs combined. There's more, Robert continued, feeling a strange mixture of nervousness and excitement. The position comes with full health benefits, tuition reimbursement to finish your nursing degree, and an on-site recreation facility where Leo could stay after school until you finish work. For the first time since he'd met her, Anna Sullivan looked genuinely stunned. She stared at the papers for a long moment, then looked up at Robert with eyes that shimmered with unshed tears. "Why?" she asked simply. "This is incredibly generous, but why are you doing this?" This goes far beyond helping with our children's friendship. Robert had asked himself the same question 100 times over the past 3 days. The answer had slowly crystallized, painfully, like a truth he had been avoiding since Eleanor's death. "Because Lily didn't just find her voice again," he said quietly. "She found her light. And Leo. Leo has something special, something that can't be taught or bought. He has the ability to heal people just by being himself. I saw what he did for Lily, what he does with those children at the library. This isn't just friendship, this is a gift." Anna's hand trembled slightly as she turned the page. "The position would start immediately. Tomorrow, if you can manage, we will provide temporary housing assistance while you get transitioned." "No," Anna's voice was firm again. "No housing assistance. I will manage with our apartment until I can afford something better. But the job..." She looked at him with a smile that transformed her entire face. "The job I will gratefully accept, and I promise you will not regret this decision." As they shook hands, Robert felt something shift in his chest, a lightness he hadn't experienced since before Eleanor died. But as he watched Anna gather the papers with trembling hands, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had just set something in motion that would change all of their lives in ways he couldn't possibly imagine. That afternoon, when Leo and Lily met at the park, the news exploded out of Leo like fireworks. "Lily." "Lily? Guess what? My mom got a real job in your dad's building. A job with insurance and everything. We don't have to move." He spun around in the sandbox, arms outstretched, sand flying everywhere. Lily's face lit up with pure joy. "Really? For real? For real? For real, for real, for real. I get to stay forever and ever," Leo declared. "And the best part is, there's a place for kids in the building, so I can stay close to my mom while she works. And maybe sometimes we can see each other during the day." Robert watched their celebration with a warmth in his chest that felt both strange and wonderful. But as other parents at the playground began to notice their interaction, a clearly wealthy man watching his daughter play with a child from the wrong side of the tracks, he began to understand that his problems were just beginning. Whispers started immediately. "Isn't that Robert Vance? What's he doing here? My goodness, that little boy's outfit looks like it came from the church bazaar. How strange to see them together." For the first time, Robert realized that bridging 2 worlds wasn't just about money or jobs. It was about confronting a society that preferred its classes separate and its charity invisible. But as he watched Lily and Leo build their latest sand creation, a house with windows facing the sky so they could wave to their parents in heaven, Robert knew there was no turning back. He had committed to this path, and wherever it led, they would walk it together. 2 weeks into Anna's new position at Vance Enterprises, the first cracks began to show. Robert found out when his assistant Margaret knocked on his office door with an expression that spelled trouble. "Mr. Vance, we need to discuss the situation with Mrs. Sullivan," Margaret said, closing the door behind her with unusual care. "What situation?" "Her work has been exemplary. The employees love the wellness programs she's implementing." Margaret shifted uncomfortably. "It's not her performance, sir, it's the perception. Several board members have expressed concerns about your personal involvement in her hiring. There are rumors circulating about favoritism, about you bending company policy for personal reasons." Robert felt his jaw tighten. Anna Sullivan was hired based on her qualifications, and our genuine need for someone with her skills. The fact that our children are friends is irrelevant. Is it? Margaret asked gently. Sir, I've worked for you for 8 years. I've never known you to personally interview a candidate for a mid-level position, let alone one without a completed degree. People are talking. Before Robert could respond, his phone rang. Lily's school. Mr. Vance, this is Principal Soares. Could you come in this afternoon? There's been an incident with Lily. An hour later, Robert sat in the principal's office as Lily squirmed in the chair beside him, her face tear-streaked. Across from them sat another mother, a Mrs. Tavares whose daughter Beatrice was in Lily's class. Lily pushed Beatrice during recess, Principal Soares explained, but when we asked her why, she said that Beatrice called her friend Leo a charity case and said she was stupid for playing with poor kids. Mrs. Tavares sniffed dismissively. Beatrice was simply observing that Lily seems to have formed an inappropriate attachment to a child from a very different background. Children need to learn about appropriate social boundaries. Robert felt anger bubble in his chest, but before he could speak, Lily's small voice cut through the tension. Leo is not a charity case. He's the kindest, smartest boy I know. He reads to little kids and makes them feel better when they're sad. Beatrice doesn't know anything about him, and she doesn't know anything about being sad either. The room fell silent. Lily had just spoken more words in defense of her friend than she had spoken to anyone at the school in 3 years. Lily, pushing is never appropriate, Principal Soares said gently. But I understand you were defending your friend. That shows loyalty. Mrs. Tavares' face flushed. This is exactly what I'm referring to. This association is clearly affecting Lily's behavior. Perhaps Mr. Vance should reconsider allowing his daughter to spend time with children from such different circumstances. Robert stood up slowly, his voice deadly calm. Mrs. Tavares, my daughter has found her voice for the first time in 3 years because of her friendship with Leo Sullivan. If you have a problem with that, I suggest you examine your own prejudices rather than question my parenting decisions. As they left the school, Lily slipped her hand into Robert's. Daddy, I'm sorry I pushed Beatrice, but I'm not sorry I defended Leo. Mummy used to say that standing up for the people we love is always the right thing to do, even when it's hard. Robert squeezed her hand, feeling both proud and terrified. Lily was learning to fight for what mattered to her. But in doing so, she was also learning that their new family arrangement would face resistance from a world that preferred its boundaries clearly drawn. That night, as Robert tucked Lily into bed, she asked the question he had been dreading. Daddy, why do some people think Leo isn't as good as me? He's smarter than most of the kids in my class, and he's definitely kinder. Robert sat on the edge of her bed, searching for words that could explain adult prejudice to a child's innocent heart. Some people judge others by things that don't matter, sweetheart. Things like how much money their families have or where they live. But you know what really matters, don't you? How kind they are on the inside, Lily said softly. And if they make you feel like talking when you thought you forgot how. Exactly. And Lily, I am so proud of you for defending Leo, though pushing isn't the answer. Next time, use your words. You have very powerful words now. As Robert turned out the light, Lily's voice filtered through the darkness. Daddy, are people going to try and make Leo and his mom go away because they think we don't belong together? The question hit Robert like a physical blow, because the truth was he was starting to fear the answer might be yes. The crisis came on a Tuesday morning in June, swift and brutal like a summer thunderstorm. Robert was reviewing quarterly reports when Margaret burst into his office without knocking, her face pale and urgent. Sir, you need to see this immediately. She pushed a local newspaper across his desk. Her hands trembling slightly, the headline made Robert's blood run cold. Vance Enterprises CEO's personal charity case, favoritism or office romance. Beneath it was a photo of Robert, Anna, Leo, and Lily leaving the library together the previous weekend, looking for all the world like a family. The article was a masterpiece of innuendo and calculated speculation. It questioned Anna's qualifications, hinted at inappropriate relationships, and painted Robert as a CEO who bent company policy for personal gain. Worse, it delved into Lily's history, describing her as the traumatized daughter of the late Eleanor Vance, now potentially being used as a pawn in her father's midlife crisis. How did they get this information? Robert demanded, his voice dangerously quiet. The reporter spoke to several employees, former parents from the school, even some of the regulars at the park. Someone has been feeding them details for weeks. Margaret paused. Sir, the board is convening an emergency session this afternoon. They're concerned about the company's reputation. By noon, Robert's phone was ringing off the hook. By 2 p.m., the story had been picked up by financial news outlets. By 4 p.m., Vance Enterprises stock had dropped 3%. By 5 p.m., Robert found himself sitting before his own board of directors like a defendant on trial. "Robert, we've been friends for 15 years, said Richard White, the chairman of the board and Robert's old college roommate. But this situation has become untenable. The appearance of impropriety is hurting our corporate reputation." "There is no impropriety," Robert said firmly. "Anna Sullivan was hired based on her qualifications and our genuine need. A woman with an incomplete degree and no corporate experience, hired at a salary 30% above the industry standard, whose son happens to be your daughter's best friend." Board member Patricia Ross shook her head. "Robert, even if everything is above board, the optics are terrible." Robert looked around the room at faces he had known for years, people he had trusted with his company's future. "Are you asking me to fire her?" The silence stretched like barbed wire. "We're asking you to make a decision about what matters more," Richard said quietly. "Your personal relationships or the company your wife helped you build?" The mention of Eleanor hit Robert like a slap. Eleanor, who had believed in using success to lift others up. Eleanor, who would have loved Leo's spirit and Anna's dignity. Eleanor, who had made Robert promise he would never let Lily's heart close off to the world. "I need time to think," Robert said, standing abruptly. "You have until Friday," Patricia said. "Either Mrs. Sullivan resigns, or we will be forced to call for a vote of no confidence in your leadership." That night, Robert sat in his study with a glass of scotch he couldn't taste, staring at a picture of Eleanor holding a baby Lily. What would Eleanor do? What would she say about a world that punished kindness and demanded he choose between his daughter's healing and his company's reputation? His phone buzzed with a text from Anna. "Mr. Vance, I saw the news. I will submit my resignation tomorrow. Thank you for the opportunity. Leo and I will be fine." Before Robert could reply, Lily appeared in the doorway in her pajamas, her face tear-streaked. "Daddy," Leo called. "He said his mom has to quit her job because people are saying mean things about us being friends. He said maybe we shouldn't see each other anymore because we're causing too much trouble." Robert's heart shattered as he looked at his daughter's devastated face. She had found her voice, her joy, her best friend, and now adult prejudice threatened to take it all away. "Is it true, Daddy? Do we have to stop being friends with Leo because people don't like us being together?" Robert realized this moment would define not just his future, but Lily's understanding of whether love and loyalty mattered more than public opinion and financial success. His answer would change everything. Robert didn't sleep that night. By dawn, he had made a decision that would either save his family or destroy everything he had built. He called Margaret at 6 a.m. "Cancel all my meetings today and call an emergency press conference for 2 p.m. this afternoon." "Sir," the board specifically advised against. "I'm not asking for advice. I'm telling you what we're going to do." At 7 a.m., Robert knocked on the door of Anna's apartment. She opened it, still in her robe, her eyes red from crying. "Mr. Vance, I meant what I said. I will resign today. I won't let Lily and Leo suffer because adults can't handle their friendship. May I come in? We need to talk." In the small living room, Leo sat at the kitchen table, pushing cereal around his bowl, his usual brightness dimmed. When he saw Robert, he managed a brave smile. "Hi, Mr. Vance. I told Lily she shouldn't be sad about my mom's job. We'll be okay. We're always okay." The child's resilience in the face of adult cruelty broke something in Robert's chest. "Leo, what if I told you your mom doesn't have to quit? What if I told you that sometimes adults have to stand up to bullies, just like kids do?" Leo's eyes widened. "You mean like when Lily pushed Beatrice for saying mean things about me?" "Exactly like that. Except instead of pushing, I'm going to use my words." Very public words, and Anna stared at him. "Mr. Vance, you can't risk your company for us." "It's not worth it. You're wrong," Robert said quietly. "You two gave me back my daughter. You showed me what matters. And if my company can't survive me doing the right thing, then maybe it's not the company Eleanor and I dreamed of building. At 2 o'clock that afternoon, Robert stood before a packed room of reporters, cameras, and skeptical faces. Behind him, a large screen displayed the Vance Enterprises logo and its mission statement: building communities, strengthening families, creating opportunity. Good afternoon. I am here to address the recent speculation regarding my company's hiring practices and my personal relationships. Robert's voice was steady, controlled. 3 months ago, my 7-year-old daughter, Lily, spoke her first words in over 3 years. She had been silent since losing her mother in a car accident, despite the efforts of the best specialists money could hire. A murmur rippled through the crowd. This was not what they had expected. Lily found her voice again thanks to her friendship with 7-year-old Leo Sullivan, a remarkable child who understood loss, who showed kindness without expectation of reward, and who possessed a gift for healing broken hearts. Leo's mother, Anna Sullivan, is pursuing a nursing degree while working 3 jobs to support her son after losing her husband in a workplace accident. Robert paused, looking directly into the cameras. When I learned the Sullivan family was facing eviction, I was presented with a choice. I could write a check and feel good about my charity, or I could create an opportunity for a hard-working woman to build a better future for herself and her son. I chose opportunity. I chose to offer Anna Sullivan a position with our company, a position for which she is uniquely qualified. Having overcome adversity while maintaining her dignity, her work ethic, and her commitment to helping others, the room was completely silent. Vance Enterprises has always stood for the principle that success means nothing if it doesn't lift others up. Today, I reaffirm that commitment. Anna Sullivan was hired not because our children are friends, but because she embodies the values on which this company was built. Any board member who cannot support that decision is welcome to resign. Robert moved closer to the microphones, his voice gaining strength. I will not apologize because my daughter found her voice. I will not apologize for recognizing talent, regardless of someone's zip code. And I will not apologize for believing that in America, friendship between children should be celebrated, not scrutinized. As Robert left the podium, reporters shouted questions, but he ignored them all. He had said what he needed to say. Now he had to live with the consequences. His phone was ringing before he reached his car. Richard White's name flashed on the screen. "Robert, what the hell do you think you just did?" "I told the truth, Richard. Something we seem to have forgotten how to do. The board is meeting tonight." "That won't be necessary," Robert interrupted, "because I just remembered something important. I own 52% of this company, which means I don't serve at the pleasure of the board. You serve at mine." The silence on the other end was deafening. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to pick up my daughter from school. She's probably wondering if her friendship is about to destroy everything she cares about. And I get to tell her that some things are worth fighting for." As Robert hung up, he realized that for the first time since Eleanor died, he felt like the man she had married. The man who believed that doing the right thing mattered more than being comfortable. But the real test would come when Lily asked the question he knew was waiting. Had he saved their new family, or had his public stand just made things worse? The answer came sooner than Robert expected. When he arrived at Lily's school, he found her sitting in the principal's office with Leo at her side, both children holding hands and looking remarkably composed for 2 7-year-olds whose lives had been turned upside down. "Mr. Vance," Principal Suarez said, standing as Robert entered. "I called because the children insisted on being together today, and given the circumstances, we thought it was best to keep them in the office where they would be safe from media attention." Through the window, Robert could see news vans in the school parking lot, reporters with cameras waiting for a glimpse of the children at the center of the story. "Daddy!" Lily jumped up and ran to him. "Did you really tell everyone on TV that Leo and Anna should stay? Did you really say friendship is more important than mean people's opinions?" "Yes, sweetheart. I told the truth about what you and Leo mean to our family." Leo approached more hesitantly. "Mr. Vance, my mom saw your speech on TV at work." She cried, but they were happy tears this time. "She said you're the bravest person she's ever met." "Leo, your mother is the brave one, raising you on her own, working so hard to build a better life. That takes real courage." Mr. Vance, Principal Suarez interjected gently. There's something you should know. After your press conference aired, we received over 200 phone calls. Most of them have been supportive. Parents sharing their own stories about their children, finding friendship across social lines. People praising you for taking a stand. Robert felt a small spark of hope. And the others? A few complaints, mostly from people we've had issues with before, but overall, the response has been overwhelmingly positive. It seems your message resonated with more people than you might have expected. As they prepared to leave through a back entrance to avoid the media, Lily tugged on Robert's sleeve. Daddy, can Leo come home with us today? I want to show him Mommy's garden. I think he'd like to see where she planted flowers that come back every year, even after the winter makes them go to sleep. Robert looked at these two remarkable children who had found each other against impossible odds and rebuilt each other's broken pieces with nothing more than pure friendship. Of course he can, sweetheart. I think your mommy would love for Leo to see her garden. That evening, as Robert watched Lily and Leo reading together in Eleanor's garden, as Anna helped prepare dinner in his kitchen, his phone rang. The caller ID showed Richard White's number. Robert, I owe you an apology. The board met tonight, and after seeing the public response to your speech, we've decided unanimously to support your position. More than that, we want to expand the wellness program Anna is developing, make it a flagship initiative. Robert stepped outside where he could speak privately. What changed your mind, Richard? To my wife. She reminded me that our daughter struggled with anxiety for 2 years after our divorce, and the only thing that helped was a friendship with a girl from a completely different background. Sometimes we get so focused on protecting what we have that we forget why we built it in the first place. Through the kitchen window, Robert could see Anna and Lily working side by side, teaching each other. Anna showing Lily how to season vegetables, Lily showing Anna which herbs grew in different parts of the garden. Richard, there's one more thing. I want to establish a scholarship fund, the Eleanor Vance Memorial Scholarship for single parents pursuing degrees in healthcare. I want to make sure other families like Anna's have the opportunities they deserve. Consider it done. And Robert, that little boy, he's something special, isn't he? Robert watched Leo carefully watering the plants Lily had shown him, explaining to each flower why it was important to drink water to grow up strong. Yes, they both are. As Robert hung up, Lily appeared at his side, slipping her small hand into his. Daddy, Leo wants to know if we can have dinner like this every week. Like a real family that chooses to be together instead of has to be together. Robert looked at his daughter's hopeful face, then back into the kitchen, where Leo was making Anna laugh with an animated story about his day. I think that sounds perfect. Lily, I think Mommy would like us choosing our family with our hearts. But as Robert said the words, he realized there was still one more test to come, one that would determine if their unconventional family could truly survive in a world that preferred its love stories simple and its social lines clearly defined. Tomorrow would bring the final challenge, and Robert wasn't sure if any of them were prepared for what it would reveal. The final test came on a cold July morning, 6 months after Lily had first spoken Leo's name in that sandbox. Robert was reviewing applications for the Eleanor Vance Memorial Scholarship when Margaret buzzed his door with an expression he had learned to recognize, the look that meant someone from his past was about to collide with his present. Mr. Vance, there's someone here to see you. She says it's about the Sullivan family, and she won't speak with anyone else. Her name is Dr. Helen Martin, and she seems distraught. The woman who entered Robert's office was in her late 50s, with graying hair pulled back severely, and the bearing of someone accustomed to difficult conversations. She carried herself with the authority of someone who delivered life-changing news for a living. Mr. Vance, I'm Dr. Martin from the Children's Hospital. I was Lily's trauma counselor for the first year after the accident. She paused, studying his face. I need to talk to you about Leo Sullivan. Robert's blood turned to ice. Is Leo sick? Did something happen? No, nothing like that. But there is something you need to know. Something I should have told you months ago when I first saw the news coverage. Dr. Martin sat down heavily, as if the weight of her words was too much to bear standing. Mr. Vance, Leo Sullivan was my patient too. The words hit Robert like a physical blow. What do you mean? 18 months ago, when his father died in that construction accident, Leo was in the car that brought Carlos to the hospital. He saw everything: the accident, the ambulance, his father's final moments. He developed selective mutism, just like Lily. For 8 months, Leo didn't speak to anyone but his mother, and even then, only in whispers. Robert felt the room spin around him. That's impossible. Leo talks constantly. He's the most verbal child I've ever met. He is now, but when he first came to me, he was as silent as Lily ever was. His healing began about 4 months ago, right around the time he met Lily. Dr. Martin leaned forward, her eyes intense. Mr. Vance, what happened between Lily and Leo in that sandbox wasn't just friendship. It was two traumatized children recognizing each other's pain and healing one another through connection. The revelation shattered everything Robert thought he understood. Leo hadn't helped Lily find her voice. They had found their voices together. The child who seemed so confident, so naturally gifted at helping others, had been fighting his own battle with silence. Why didn't Anna tell me? Robert asked, his voice barely a whisper. Because Leo made her promise not to. He was afraid that if people knew he had been broken too, they wouldn't trust him to help Lily. He was protecting her recovery by hiding his own journey. Robert closed his eyes, seeing every interaction between the children in a new light. Leo's wisdom about missing people, his instinctual understanding of Lily's silence, his natural ability to connect with hurting children. It all made perfect, devastating sense. There's more, Dr. Martin continued. On the day of Carlos's accident, he was working on a construction project for Vance Enterprises. The construction site where he died was the foundation for your new corporate headquarters. Robert's world tilted on its axis. Carlos Sullivan had died building Robert's dreams. While Robert sat in board meetings planning for the future, the man whose death had traumatized Leo was killed creating something for the Vance family legacy. Dr. Martin, why are you telling me this now? Because Leo is struggling again. The media attention, the scrutiny of his friendship with Lily is bringing his trauma back. Anna called yesterday because he's starting to withdraw, starting to blame himself for the trouble your family is facing. He thinks if he hadn't been broken, none of this would have happened. The irony was devastating. Leo, who had saved Lily by being brave enough to speak first, was now retreating into silence because he feared his brokenness was hurting the people he loved. Robert stood abruptly. I need to see him now. 20 minutes later, Robert found himself back at 231 Sycamore Street, but this time he wasn't carrying a check or a job offer. He was carrying the weight of understanding and the determination to save the child who had saved his daughter. Anna opened the door, her face tear-streaked. Mr. Vance, I was just about to call you. Leo's been so quiet since yesterday. He won't even talk to Lily on the phone. Anna, we need to talk. All of us. They found Leo in his room, sitting by the window with the telescope his father had given him, staring at the overcast sky with eyes that had lost their light. When he saw Robert, he managed a weak smile. Hi, Mr. Vance, I'm sorry I've been weird lately. I just don't want to cause any more trouble for Lily. Robert sat on Leo's small bed, his heart breaking for this remarkable child who carried burdens too heavy for young shoulders. Leo, Dr. Martin came to see me today. She told me about your dad, about the accident, about how you couldn't talk for a long time too. Leo's face crumpled. She promised she wouldn't tell. I made her promise because I didn't want you to know. Why? Robert's voice was gentle. Because... Leo's voice broke. Because if people knew I was broken too, they might think I was making Lily worse instead of better. And because my dad died building something for your company, and I was afraid you'd feel too sad about it to let us keep being friends. The words shattered Robert's heart into 1,000 pieces. This 7-year-old child had been protecting everyone. Lily, Anna, even Robert himself, by carrying his pain alone. Leo, look at me. Robert waited until the child met his eyes. Your father didn't just die building something for my company. He died building something that would create jobs for hundreds of families, something that would help other people achieve their dreams. He was a hero just like you. I'm not a hero. I'm just a boy who got scared and stopped talking. You are a hero because you found your voice again, and you used it to help Lily find hers. You're a hero because you saw someone else who was hurting, and you chose to be brave for her when you were still learning to be brave for yourself. Leo wiped his nose on his sleeve. Really? For real? For real. And Leo, there's one more thing you need to know. Your father's accident led to new safety regulations that have saved the lives of dozens of other workers. His sacrifice meant something, just like your friendship with Lily means something. As Robert spoke, he saw the light slowly returning to Leo's eyes. But the real magic happened when Lily appeared in the doorway, having convinced her driver to bring her to the apartment when Leo wouldn't answer her calls. "Leo Sullivan," she said with the fierce authority of a 7-year-old girl on a mission, "you stop feeling sorry for yourself right now. We were both broken and we fixed each other. And that is the most beautiful thing in the whole world. If you try to take that away by being sad about it, I am going to be very mad at you." Leo looked at her for a moment, then burst out laughing, the first real laugh Robert had heard from him in weeks. "Lily Vance, you are the bossiest best friend anyone has ever had. Good. Now come here and help me tell our parents that we want to do something special for all the kids whose mommies and daddies are in heaven." As Robert watched the children hug, their healing bond stronger than ever, he realized this had never been a story about a rich man helping a poor family. It had been a story about broken people finding each other and choosing to become a family, in spite of, or perhaps because of, their shared wounds. 6 months later, Robert stood in the new children's wing of the Eleanor Vance Family Support Center, watching as Lily and Leo led a support group for children who had lost parents. The center, built with funds from the Eleanor Vance Memorial Foundation and run by Anna Sullivan Vance, who had legally become part of their family, served families from every corner of the city. "The thing about missing someone," Leo was telling a room full of children, "is that it never stops hurting completely. But it can start to hurt less when you find other people who understand." Lily nodded seriously. "And when you help other kids who are sad like you were, it makes the sadness turn into something useful, like flowers that grow from the dirt. The dirt isn't pretty, but it makes beautiful things possible." Robert smiled, remembering Eleanor's favorite quote, "Healing isn't about forgetting the pain. It's about turning it into something that helps others hurt less." As he watched his daughter, his expanded family, help another silent child find words, Robert understood that this had been Eleanor's plan all along. Somehow, from wherever she was watching, she had orchestrated this entire beautiful collision of broken hearts, learning to beat in harmony again. Lily caught his eye and waved, her smile bright enough to light up the whole city. Beside her, Leo grinned and gave Robert a thumbs up before turning back to help a little girl who was trying to say her father's name for the first time since he died. 2 children who had found their voices in a sandbox had become healers for a world full of people, learning to speak after the silence. And Robert Vance, the CEO who once thought love could be measured in dollars and success could be quantified in profits, had learned that the most valuable things in life couldn't be bought. They could only be chosen, nurtured, and shared with hearts brave enough to stay open, despite the risk of breaking. In the end, Lily had been right all along. Sometimes the most beautiful thing in the whole world was simply 2 broken people choosing to fix each other, one word at a time. Did this moving story touch your heart? If it did, please leave a like. Subscribe to the channel for more stories that will stir your soul. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Tell me in the comments, do you believe love transcends death? Have you ever had an unexplainable experience with loved ones who have passed on? I want to hear your stories. And don't forget to share this video with that special person who needs to believe in miracles and second chances. Until the next story with love.